The other morning, I was in my shop drinking my morning coffee, thinking about what the next project I should make and what I should make it with. Then I thought to myself, what if I could make a cup of coffee? And I have some old lumber that was left at my house when I moved in. I could always use that, right? It's a nice piece of wood. I wanted to use it for something. That's why I didn't get rid of it. But it's a little rough. I don't think there's a single straight edge on it. I don't know what kind of wood it is. And in its current state, it's kind of ugly. So we'll just have to see. With my very limited woodworking experience, I was under the impression that I needed to flatten this board out before I could work with it. And since I didn't have a jointer or the knowledge to do it any other way, I thought sticking it through a planer would do just fine. Not even 5 minutes into this project, I run into a snag. And by snag, I mean a nail that I saw, luckily, before the planer found. Now, this attempt to remove the nail, I am not proud of. I would not recommend doing what I'm doing because it clearly did not work, but I got it out of the way enough that I could continue my project with this piece of wood. Now with that out of the way, I can get back to the planing, which does a great job of getting rid of the oxidation and letting me see what the wood actually looks like underneath. But it does a terrible job of straightening it out, as you'll see later in the glue up part. When I decided I wanted to make a cup of coffee, I didn't want to just make a little cup. I wanted to make a big cup of coffee. While gluing these pieces together to make the block big enough, I did notice, though, that my attempt to straighten them out did not work at all. Luckily, I was still able to piece them together enough that they made a solid block in the end. after a solid 22 hours, according to the timestamp that I forgot to remove from my camera, I thought that was long enough to cure and to start working on this piece. So let's get it hooked up to the lathe and have it spin really, really fast. For future reference for myself, and in case you're using this as a tutorial, which I would highly not recommend, probably should take off the corners on a piece this big if you're using just a small table lathe. Now the fact that this looks very, very sketchy is not lost on me at all. That being said, if you want to leave a comment below telling me how I can improve this so it doesn't happen again, or so I don't die again in the future, please do. Now that I got those corners knocked off, things get a lot smoother, and there's only one or two more times where I end up almost hurting myself. Now that the basic shape of the bottom of the mug is done, I'm cutting a mortise into it. This is what's going to secure it when I flip it around so that I can hollow out the rest of the mug. I also decided that before I flipped it around, I'd give the base a good sanding and fill in any cracks and holes that I could find with CA glue and sand those down as well. After looking at it a little bit closer, I realized that my block that I made was a little bit too tall, so I had to chop it down a little bit just to keep the proportions correct. Now that I have the mug flipped around and I'm working on hollowing it out, I'd like to remind everybody about the solid 22 hours that I gave the wood glue to cure, and how the instructions by the manufacturer says wait 48 hours before working with it. Now I admit that I did not follow the instructions and wait the proper time, but I was not going to give up on this project without at least trying to repair it. So this time I waited a good 72 hours instead. After waiting a solid 3 days to work on this project again, I was both a little excited and a little nervous to work on it. I was not quite sure if my repair job was going to be up to the task. After getting the mug all hollowed out, I was more than relieved that there wasn't another incident, and was excited to be able to put a final sanding on the outside before I started working on the handle. Now, if you remember to the beginning of the project, the nail I had found on the board, I'd kind of just cut that piece off and set it aside. But looking at it now, I think it would make a great handle for this mug. It had been a while since I used my bandsaw, and if I remember correctly, the blade was probably not the sharpest to begin with. Looking back on it, it definitely was not the sharpest to begin with. After cutting through the same nail 2 times, I think my bandsaw was just telling me that it was done for the day. So instead of doing what a reasonable woodworker would do and get a new blade, I did what I normally do and made things much, much harder than they should be. Now that I finally got that pesky nail out of there, I'm just going to continue doing what I'm doing with the Dremel and hand shaping this handle for the next 27 hours. While editing this video, I did realize that this handle and getting it attached to my mug was literally 5 hours of the 8 hours that it took me to make this, not counting downtime. It was a ridiculous amount, and I have so much of it edited out. But if you guys want something like that left in, please leave a comment below. Now, to attach the handle, in my mind I wanted a dovetail and then somehow to slot the bottom piece of the handle into the mug as well. But the amount of time that it took me just to get the dovetail correct, I opted out of the latter portion of the connection. With this being the first dovetail I've ever made for any woodworking project, it was a lot of trial and error and figuring out what tools I should use and what tools did not work. Although it was slightly frustrating at first not having it go completely as planned, it was also a little fun piecing it together and making it fit exactly and figuring out how to do that best. Once I got the handle adjusted and sitting how I want it to, I have to do a little bit of last minute cleaning up and shaping before I permanently attach it. When attaching the handle, I wanted to make it sturdier than just gluing it on with wood glue, because the mug itself is heavy, and then it's going to be filled up with epoxy, making it even heavier. I needed the handle to not break off when you hold it. The way I went about attaching the handle is drilling 2 holes in either end and CA gluing in 4 16 gauge pieces of wire that then would be inserted into holes drilled in the mug as well. My thinking is that this would act almost like rebar does in cement. Next, I was going to make a wood glue and sawdust mixture and put that into all of the cracks around the handle so that there were not any large gaps left over, and to make it a little more wood-like. Time to do a little bit more sanding to blend in the connections and make the piece look like it is made out of one piece of wood. In my excitement to be nearing the end of this, I wanted to see what the mug would look like, so I decided to get it all oiled up, inside and out. What I failed to realize is that epoxy does not like to stick to oiled wood, so I would have to fix that. This was my first time using epoxy for a project, or for anything, actually. So I believe I was overly cautious with the amount of epoxy I was using per pour. as I finish up this project with a couple more epoxy pours and a final coating of tung oil on there. I just want to thank you guys, if you're still here, for watching. If you guys like to see me do some more random projects and hopefully improve my skills as a woodworker and an artist, please like and subscribe. And you can also comment as well, giving me ideas on what you'd like to see me do. And finally, all the projects that I do on YouTube, plus more, are available for sale on my Etsy page. The link is in the description below. Thank you again, and I will see you next time.